Anna Sampson shifted for what felt like the 100th time, her phone screen illuminating her face in the dim amber glow of Mama Lou's Seoul kitchen. 8:47. Ben was 30 minutes late, which shouldn't have surprised her. Punctuality had never been his strong suit, but tonight was different. Tonight was supposed to be special. She smoothed down the front of her dress, a deep burgundy number she'd found at the Goodwill on Fletcher Street 2 days ago. 4 years. 4 years of late nights waiting for Ben to finish networking events, of rescheduled dates because a client meeting ran long, of being introduced as his girlfriend with a tone that somehow made it sound temporary. But lately, things had been different. He'd been attentive, thoughtful even. 2 weeks ago, he'd kissed her forehead and said, "I think it's time we celebrate something special, babe. Somewhere nice. Wear that dress I like." She didn't own a dress he particularly liked, so she'd bought one he would. The door chimed, and Anna's heart performed a painful leap in her chest. Ben walked in, his tailored navy suit catching the light, his fresh haircut sharp enough to cut glass. He looked good. He always looked good. But her smile faltered when she saw the woman beside him. Tall, polished, her natural hair styled in elegant locks that probably cost more than Anna's monthly rent, wearing a cream pantsuit that screamed lawyer or executive or someone who had their life together. Anna's stomach dropped. Ben spotted her and waved, actually waved, like she was an acquaintance he'd run into at the grocery store. He approached the table with the woman at his side, and Anna felt the room tilt slightly, reality refusing to align with expectation. "Anna, hey." Ben's smile was easy, comfortable, completely devoid of guilt. "This is Simone. Simone, this is Anna. I told you about her." Simone extended a perfectly manicured hand. "It's so nice to finally meet you. Ben has told me so much about his past." His past. The words landed like shrapnel. What?" Anna's voice came out smaller than she intended, and she hated herself for it. Ben slid into the booth across from her, gesturing for Simone to sit beside him. "I know this might seem weird, but I thought it was important for you two to meet. Clean break, you know? No awkwardness." He said it like he was doing her a favor, like he was the bigger person for staging this ambush. "Ben, what are you talking about?" Anna's hands were shaking now, hidden beneath the table where she gripped the worn leather of her thrifted purse. "Come on, Anna, you had to see this coming." His tone shifted, took on that patronizing edge she'd heard him use with junior employees. "We've been growing apart for a while now. You're still at the community center, still taking classes part-time. Still—" He gestured vaguely at her, at the dress she'd spent her whole savings on. "You're stuck, babe, and I'm not. Simone and I are building something real, something professional. She gets my trajectory." The restaurant had gone quiet, or maybe that was just the blood rushing in Anna's ears. She was aware of other diners glancing over, of the server frozen mid-step with a tray of drinks, of Simone's uncomfortable shift in the booth. "So this is—" Anna couldn't finish the sentence. The words were glass in her throat. "This is me being honest. We want different things. You want to save the world one after-school program at a time, and that's noble, I guess. But it's not ambitious. It's not going anywhere." Ben reached across the table and patted her hand, actually patted it like she was a child being let down gently. "You don't fit my new trajectory." Anna pulled her hand back as if burned. Humiliation crashed over her in waves, hot, nauseating, suffocating. She needed to leave, needed to run, needed to disappear from this moment and pretend it had never happened. She was gathering her purse, preparing to flee with whatever dignity she could salvage, when a shadow fell across the table. "I apologize for being late, darling. Traffic from the airport was terrible." The voice was smooth, accented, entirely unfamiliar. Anna looked up and found herself staring at a stranger, Asian, probably Korean, wearing a suit that made Ben's look like a knockoff, with sharp cheekbones and eyes that held something dangerous and cold. He didn't wait for permission, simply slid into the booth beside her with a possessive ease that suggested he belonged there. "Who?" Ben started, but the stranger's attention was entirely on Anna. "You look beautiful," the man said, and his hand found hers on the table, warm and steady. "I'm sorry I kept you waiting." Then he turned to Ben and Simone with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. I'm sorry, do I know you? We were having a conversation, Ben said, his confidence faltering slightly. Were you? The stranger's thumb traced circles on the back of Anna's hand, and she was too stunned to pull away. How rude of you to monopolize my girlfriend's time. We have a property viewing in an hour, and her mother's birthday dinner after that. Anna's mind reeled. Property viewing. Mother's birthday. The stranger, her mysterious savior, raised his hand and effortlessly caught the server's attention. The tasting menu, please, both of us, and a bottle of the Chateau Neuf du Pape. He said it with the casual authority of someone who had never been told no. Ben, we should go, Simone murmured, clearly reading the room better than her boyfriend. But the stranger wasn't finished. He leaned back in the booth, his arms sliding around Anna's shoulders with practiced intimacy. Although, if you're friends of Anna's, you're welcome to stay. I always enjoy meeting the people from her past. Her past. He'd thrown Ben's words back at him, and the poetry of it was almost beautiful. Ben's face had gone red. Come on, Simone. He stood abruptly, nearly knocking over a water glass. This is ridiculous. They left without another word, and the restaurant slowly returned to its normal rhythm. Anna sat in stunned silence, her mysterious rescuer's arm still around her shoulders, his warmth bleeding through the fabric of her dress. You can let go now, she whispered. They're gone. But he didn't move. Instead, he signaled the server again. The food is ordered, and you deserve to eat. I don't even know your name. Min-jun Park, he said it simply, then turned to look at her fully. His eyes were softer now, the dangerous edge replaced by something that looked almost like understanding. He'll regret losing you. I know what it's like to be discarded by someone who should have treasured you. The words hit harder than Ben's rejection had. There was a story there, buried beneath Min-jun's expensive suit and calculated rescue, and Anna found herself wanting to know it. They ate in near silence, the food appearing course after course. Smothered chicken, collard greens, candied yams, peach cobbler. Min-jun asked simple questions, listened to her rambling answers, and never once made her feel like she was less than enough. When the check came, he paid without ceremony. Then he stood, adjusted his cufflinks, and prepared to leave. Wait, Anna said, scrambling for her phone. Your number, can I thank you properly? Min-jun smiled, but there was a sadness to it that made her chest ache. No need. And then he was gone, disappearing into the night as abruptly as he'd appeared, leaving Anna alone with an empty table and 1,000 questions. She returned to her apartment in a daze, the tiny studio she'd made home with second-hand furniture and handmade curtains. Standing in front of the bathroom mirror, still wearing her dress, she replayed Ben's words. You don't fit my new trajectory. For the first time, she wondered if that was actually a compliment. Girl, you need to forget about Mystery Man before you end up on the news. Keisha, Anna's best friend, sat cross-legged on Anna's worn couch, laptop balanced on her knees, her expression hovering somewhere between concern and exasperation. She'd been researching for the past 20 minutes while Anna paced the small apartment, unable to sit still, unable to stop replaying the way Min-jun's thumb had traced circles on her hand. What did you find? Anna asked, though part of her didn't want to know. Keisha turned the laptop around. The screen showed a blurry photo from what looked like a charity gala. A man in a tuxedo, face partially turned away from the camera, but the sharp cheekbones were unmistakable. Min-jun Park, head of Park International Trading, import-export business with connections throughout Atlanta's Korean community. She clicked to another tab. And that's the official story. The unofficial story. Money laundering allegations that never stick. Rumors of organized crime. Business rivals who mysteriously relocate or disappear. He's untouchable, Anna. Powerful. Dangerous. He saved me from the most humiliating moment of my life, Anna said quietly. He didn't have to do that. Maybe, or maybe he saw an opportunity. Keisha closed the laptop, her voice softening. Look, I'm not saying he's evil. I'm saying he's complicated in ways you're not equipped to handle. You've got enough on your plate without adding a potential crime lord to the mix. Anna wanted to argue, but Keisha was right. She was still paying off student loans from a degree she hadn't finished, still living paycheck to paycheck, still trying to figure out what came next. Min-jun Park existed in a different universe, one of expensive suits and dangerous whispers and the kind of power that bent the world to its will. She should forget him. She couldn't. 3 days later, Anna was helping 8-year-old Deshaun with his math homework when Patricia from the front desk appeared in the doorway of the community center's cramped classroom, her eyes wide with something that looked like panic. "Anna, there's someone here to see you. He says he's making a donation." The way Patricia said donation made it sound like a mob hit. Anna's stomach dropped even before she walked into the lobby and found Min-Jun Park standing beneath the flickering fluorescent lights, looking wildly out of place in his charcoal suit, flanked by a shorter Korean man who radiated barely contained violence. "Mr. Park." Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "Miss Sampson's." His smile was small, almost shy, completely at odds with his intimidating presence. "I hope I'm not interrupting. I wanted to make a contribution to the center's youth programs, $50,000 if you'll have it." The number hung in the air like a grenade. Patricia actually gasped. Anna felt the room tilt slightly. "That's extremely generous." She struggled to process the figure. $50,000 could fund their after-school programs for a year, could replace the ancient computers in the learning lab, could hire another full-time counselor. "But I have to ask, what do you want in return?" "A tour." He said it simply, as if the request was equivalent to the donation. "I'd like to see what you do here, if you're willing." The man beside him, the one who looked like he could break someone in half without breaking a sweat, gave Anna a look that seemed equal parts warning and assessment. But Min-Jun was watching her with something that looked almost like hope, and against every instinct screaming at her to refuse, she found herself nodding. "Okay, let me get my keys." Walking through the community center with Min-Jun felt surreal. He asked questions constantly, his attention focused and intense. How many kids did they serve? What were the biggest challenges families faced? Which programs were most effective? In the computer lab, he knelt beside a girl struggling with a coding exercise and spoke to her in gentle Korean, then English, guiding her through the problem with unexpected patience. In the art room, he studied the wall of children's paintings, bright, chaotic expressions of joy and pain and everything in between, with an expression Anna couldn't quite read. "You know all their names," he observed as they moved through the gymnasium where teenagers played pickup basketball. "Of course I do." "Not, of course." He stopped walking, turned to face her fully. "Most people in your position would see numbers, demographics, statistics. You see individuals. You know Bob's story and Aaliyah's struggle with her mother's deportation case and how Jerome wants to be an engineer, but his school doesn't offer advanced math." He paused. "How do you do it? How do you carry all that and not break?" The question pierced something in her chest. "Some days I do break," she admitted, "but they deserve someone who sees them, who knows them. So I put myself back together and show up." Something shifted in Min-Jun's expression, a crack in the armor, a glimpse of the man beneath the reputation. Her office was barely larger than a closet, dominated by a desk covered in grant applications and donation boxes stacked precariously in the corners. Min-Jun sat in the rickety chair across from her, looking impossibly elegant against the backdrop of peeling paint and outdated equipment. "I was 16 when I came to America," he said suddenly, his gaze fixed on a water stain on the ceiling. "My mother worked 3 jobs in Seoul to save enough for my plane ticket. She wanted me to have opportunities she never had." His voice was steady but distant, like he was reading someone else's story. "I arrived with $200 and enough English to order food. No one helped me navigate the immigration system or find legitimate work or understand my rights. I was exploited by people who saw a desperate kid and sensed profit." Anna found herself leaning forward, drawn into the narrative. "So I learned. I learned the systems, the loopholes, the gray spaces where vulnerable people fall through." He finally looked at her. "I built an empire to protect Korean immigrants from the exploitation I experienced. My business walks a line society doesn't approve of, but it keeps people safe. It gives them leverage. Power." "At what cost?" she asked quietly. "At whatever cost necessary." His honesty was brutal. "I didn't have someone to help me when I arrived, so I became that person for others. Perhaps not in ways that earn approval, but in ways that work." The silence stretched between them, heavy with understanding. He was a product of a system that failed him, just as she fought daily against systems failing the kids in her care. They were two sides of the same coin. She worked within the rules, he worked around them, but they both fought for the same people. "Have dinner with me," he said. "Not as charity, a real date. I haven't been able to stop thinking about you." She should say no. Every rational thought screamed at her to refuse, to maintain distance from whatever darkness he carried. But beneath his armor, she recognized something painfully familiar: loneliness. The kind that came from being seen as a symbol rather than a person, from carrying too much weight alone, from building walls so high you forgot how to let anyone in. A public place, she heard herself say. Somewhere normal. His smile transformed his face. Anywhere you want. As Min-jun left, the man who'd accompanied him, Ji-woo, she'd learned, lingered in the doorway. He studied her with dark, assessing eyes. "Be careful," he said quietly. "Boss doesn't let many people in. But those he does, he protects with everything he has. That kind of protection comes with a price." It sounded like a warning and a threat and a promise all at once. That night, Anna fell down an internet rabbit hole. Every search for Min-jun Park yielded vague results: business ventures that seemed legitimate on the surface, charitable donations to Korean-American organizations, money laundering allegations that mysteriously evaporated, rivals who disappeared without trace. One article called him Atlanta's most philanthropic ghost. Another suggested his import-export business was a front for something far more dangerous. The smart thing would be to cancel the date, to accept the donation with gratitude, and never see him again. Instead, she found herself standing in front of her closet at midnight, trying to decide what to wear for dinner with a man who terrified and fascinated her in equal measure, a man who saw her, really saw her, in a way no one else ever had. She pulled out a dress, held it against herself in the mirror, and wondered what kind of price Ji-woo had meant, and whether she was willing to pay it. The restaurant was tucked into a discreet corner of Buckhead, the kind of place that didn't advertise because it didn't need to. Min-jun led Anna through a minimal reception area where the hostess greeted him by name, bowing slightly, into a private room that smelled of sesame oil and something floral she couldn't identify. Traditional Korean music played softly from hidden speakers. The floor was heated beneath the low table, and silk cushions replaced chairs. Min-jun removed his shoes without ceremony, and Anna followed suit, suddenly hyper-aware of her mismatched socks, one navy, one black. He pretended not to notice, or maybe genuinely didn't care. "I hope this is okay," he said, and she realized he was nervous. Min-jun Park, rumored crime lord, was nervous about their date. The thought made something warm bloom in her chest. "It's beautiful." The meal arrived in waves, banchan in small dishes, galbi that Min-jun grilled himself at the table, teaching her the timing with patient hands. Here, away from the community center and his empire, the cold mask cracked. He laughed when she struggled with the metal chopsticks, his smile reaching his eyes in a way that transformed his entire face. "Tell me something true," Anna said between bites. "Something you don't tell anyone else." Min-jun's hand stilled over the grill. "My father abandoned us when my mother got sick, cancer. He said he couldn't watch her die, so he just left." His voice was steady, but his jaw tightened. "I was 12. I stayed. I watched her fight for 4 years before she finally saved enough to send me here. She died 3 months after I arrived, and I never got to say goodbye." The rawness of it stole Anna's breath. "I'm so sorry." "Your turn," he said quietly. "Something true." She set down her chopsticks. "My father's in prison, armed robbery. He got 15 years when I was 9. The familiar shame tried to rise, but she pushed through it. Everyone expects me to be ashamed of him, and sometimes I am. But mostly I'm just sad. He made a desperate choice in a desperate situation, and it cost him everything. Cost us everything." Min-jun reached across the table, his fingers finding hers. "We both built ourselves from nothing." "From less than nothing," she corrected, "from the kind of nothing people judge you for." "Yes." His thumb traced her knuckles. "Exactly that." The understanding between them was a physical thing, a bridge built from shared wounds and hard-earned survival. They stayed in that private room for 3 hours. the food growing cold as conversation consumed them. "Journalists love to reduce me to a type," Minjun said as they walked toward her car, the Buckhead streets quiet beneath streetlights. "Dangerous foreigner, gang leader, criminal. They can't conceive that I might be protecting people, that my business serves a community the system fails." He stopped walking, turned to face her. "They see the worst in me because it confirms what they already believe." "Ben did that to me," Anna admitted. "Made me feel small for years, for staying at the community center instead of chasing money, for caring about kids everyone else writes off. And I let him because part of me believed he was right, that I was settling, that I wasn't ambitious enough, that I wasn't—" "Stop," Minjun's voice was sharp. He stepped closer, his hands framing her face with unexpected gentleness. "You're not small. You're the person keeping hope alive in a neighborhood everyone else abandoned. That's not small. That's revolutionary." The word hung between them, too big and too true. "He was a fool," Minjun whispered, and then he kissed her. The world contracted to the point where their mouths met, intense, electric, terrifying in its perfection. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Anna felt tears on her cheeks and didn't know when they'd started. "I need to go," she said, overwhelmed by the intensity of what she felt. Minjun nodded, but his hand lingered on her cheek. "I'll see you tomorrow." It wasn't a question. He kept his word. Over the next few days, Minjun became a fixture in Anna's life. He appeared at the community center with donations, new computers, art supplies, a check for the scholarship fund. Sometimes he stayed for hours, helping kids with homework in quiet, Korean-accented English. Sometimes he just watched Anna work, his presence a steady warmth at her back. They had coffee at diners where he looked wildly out of place, his expensive suits drawing stares. They talked late into the night in her apartment, his jacket draped over her threadbare armchair, his walls slowly crumbling. She learned he was brilliant, lonely, and carrying wounds as deep as her own. She was falling, and she knew it, and she couldn't bring herself to care about the danger. The knock on her apartment door came at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. Anna looked through the peephole, and her stomach dropped. Ben stood in the hallway, swaying slightly, his eyes red-rimmed and wild. "Anna, baby, please." His voice was thick, slurred. "I made a mistake. Simone dumped me, said I was too immature, It doesn't matter. I need you. We can fix this." She opened the door but didn't invite him in. "Ben, go home. You're drunk." "I'm honest." He pushed forward, and she had to step back to avoid contact. "You think that gangster really cares about you? You're a charity case to him, a project. He'll get bored and you need to leave." Anna's voice shook, but she held her ground. Ben grabbed her wrist, his grip tight enough to hurt. "I'm not leaving until you listen." "Let her go." The voice came from the stairwell, cold and precise. Minjun materialized in the hallway like a conjured shadow, Jiwoo one step behind him. His eyes found Ben's hand on Anna's wrist, and something dark and dangerous crossed his face. "Now," Minjun added, and the single word carried the weight of absolute authority. Ben released her but didn't back down. "This is between me and my girlfriend." He didn't finish. Minjun moved with liquid speed, backing Ben against the hallway wall with one hand pressed to his chest. There was no violence in the gesture, no visible aggression, but Ben went pale. "If you come near her again," Minjun said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper, "they won't find enough of you to identify. Do you understand?" Ben nodded frantically. The moment Minjun released him, he fled down the stairs, the sound of his footsteps echoing in the stairwell. Anna should have been horrified, should have questioned how Minjun arrived so quickly, what that meant about surveillance and privacy and control. Instead, she felt safe for the first time in years. Inside her apartment, Minjun stood by the window, tension radiating from every line of his body. Jiwoo had vanished as silently as he'd appeared. "I've had someone watching your building," Minjun admitted without turning around. "I'm sorry. I know it's a violation of privacy, but I couldn't take the chance. Not after—" He stopped abruptly. "Not after what?" Anna pressed. "Not after someone else I cared about got hurt because I wasn't paying attention." The confession hung heavy in the air. Anna crossed the small space, touched his shoulder until he turned to face her. "I'm falling in love with you," she said, "and that terrifies me." Minjun's expression softened, the dangerous edge melting into something vulnerable and raw. "Good," he replied. It terrifies me too. She kissed him first this time, pulling him toward her bedroom with trembling hands. Afterward, lying tangled in her small bed with the streetlight casting shadows across his bare chest, Minjun traced her face with gentle fingers. I will never make you feel small, he said. I promise you that. Anna believed him. Against all reason, against every warning, against the voice in her head that said this was dangerous and complicated and destined for disaster. She believed him. She fell asleep with his heartbeat steady against her cheek, and for the first time since Ben walked into that restaurant with another woman on his arm, she felt like she could breathe. The first message arrived on a Tuesday morning, slipped under Anna's apartment door in a plain white envelope. No return address, just 5 words typed on plain paper. You're a target now. Run. By that afternoon, photos had surfaced online, grainy surveillance shots of Anna and Minjun at the Korean restaurant, walking hand in hand near the community center, him kissing her goodnight outside her building. Someone was watching. Someone wanted her to know. Minjun appeared at her door that evening with Ji-woo and another man she didn't recognize, broad-shouldered, silent, radiating barely controlled violence. This is Taimin, Minjun said without preamble. He and Ji-woo will be rotating shifts. One of them will be with you at all times. Anna looked from the bodyguards to Minjun, something cold settling in her stomach. I don't want bodyguards. It's not optional. His voice was gentle but absolute. Anna, please, let me keep you safe. Safe? She laughed, the sound brittle. I wasn't in danger until I met you. This isn't the life I wanted, Minjun. I can't breathe with people watching me constantly. Would you rather breathe alone or not at all? The rawness in his voice stopped her protest. There's a man named Alexei Volkov, Russian syndicate. He's been trying to expand into Korean territory for 2 years, and I've blocked him at every turn. Minjun moved closer, his hands gentle on her shoulders. Now he knows about you. Your leverage. You're a way to hurt me. I won't let that happen. The weight of it crashed over her. This wasn't just romance complicated by different worlds. Loving Minjun meant permanent danger, meant living with the constant threat of violence, meant never feeling truly safe again. How do you live like this? She whispered. Very carefully, he kissed her forehead. The bodyguards stay. Anna's mother showed up unannounced 3 days later, her face drawn and pale. She'd seen the photos online, done her own research, connected the dots. Baby, no. Her mother's voice cracked as she sank onto Anna's couch. Not him, not a man like that. Mama, you don't know him. I know men like him. Her mother's hands shook as she gripped Anna's. Your father was involved with people like Minjun Park. He said he could handle it, said he was protecting us, said he had everything under control. And I believed him because I loved him. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Then he got arrested for armed robbery because his associates needed him to do one more job, one more, and we lost everything. The parallel was a knife between Anna's ribs. I begged him to leave that life, her mother continued. He said he couldn't, said it was too late, he was in too deep. Don't make my mistakes, baby, please. Don't love a man who lives in shadows and calls it protection. Anna wanted to argue that Minjun was different, that her father's situation was different, but the words died in her throat. Was she repeating her mother's trauma, falling for the same dangerous promise of a man who thought his violence could keep her safe? Ji-woo found her alone in the community center's break room that evening, staring at her coffee like it held answers. You should know something, he said without preamble, settling into the chair across from her. Something Minjun won't tell you because he thinks it'll scare you away. Then why are you telling me? Because you deserve the truth before you get in deeper. Ji-woo's expression was carefully neutral. 7 years ago, Minjun was engaged. Her name was Bella. She was a teacher, kind, gentle, everything opposite of his world. He thought he could protect her, keep her separate from the business. Anna's chest tightened. What happened? Rival gang. Drive-by shooting meant for Minjun. Bella was with him. Ji-woo's voice remained flat, but his eyes held old pain. She died in his arms. He still has nightmares where he can't stop the bleeding fast enough. The room felt too small, the air too thin. He'll never forgive himself if you get hurt, Ji-woo continued. So I need to ask you, do you love him enough to leave before that happens? Because staying means you accept the risk, and he needs to believe you're safer with him than without him. But we both know that's not true. The fire started at 6:47 p.m. on a Friday, during the after-school program's busiest hours. Anna smelled smoke first, that acrid chemical scent that meant accelerant. The fire alarm screamed to life, and 37 kids started panicking at once. Training took over. She herded them toward exits, counted heads, screamed for Patricia and the other counselors. Tai Min appeared from nowhere, lifting the younger children, his body shielding them from falling debris. Everyone made it out. The building didn't. Anna stood on the street watching flames consume the community center, her second home, the place that had given her purpose when Ben took everything else, and felt something inside her break. The fire marshal found evidence within hours: accelerant, forced entry, deliberate arson. Security footage showed a figure in a jacket bearing Min Jun's organization's insignia, a stylized phoenix pouring gasoline in the storage room. "I'm sorry," the detective said. "Looks like gang-related." Min Jun arrived before she could call him, his face ashen. "Anna, I swear on my mother's grave, this wasn't us. Don't." She held up a hand, her voice dead. "I saw the footage, your jacket, your people. It's a frame job. Alexei stole the jacket 3 weeks ago from one of our warehouses. He's trying to turn you against me." Min Jun's desperation was palpable. "Please, you have to believe me. I would never. Those kids I work with could have died." Anna's voice broke. 7-year-olds trapped in a burning building because I fell in love with you, because I became a target in your war. "This isn't my fault. It's exactly your fault." The words ripped from her chest. "Your world, your enemies, your violence following me everywhere I go. How many times will people around me get hurt because of you?" Min Jun had no answer. The silence stretched between them, heavy with everything they couldn't fix. "I can't do this," Anna said finally. "The violence, the danger, the constant fear. It's too much. I love you, but I love myself more. And this life will destroy me." She expected him to fight, to argue, to promise it would get better. Instead, he simply nodded, his face a mask of resignation and grief. "You deserve a normal life," he said quietly. "I was selfish to think I could give you that." He walked away without looking back, and Anna watched him go, heartbroken but resolute, devastated but certain. Loving him wasn't enough. Survival mattered more. 2 weeks crawled by like months. The community center operated out of a temporary space, and Anna threw herself into rebuilding. She didn't answer Min Jun's calls. She deleted his messages unread. She tried to convince herself she'd made the right choice. Ben showed up on a Saturday morning with coffee and his most charming smile. "I heard about the fire. I'm so sorry." He actually sounded sincere. "And I heard about him, that it's over." He set the coffee on her desk. "See? I told you it wouldn't work with him. Guy's dangerous, Anna. You're better off." She stared at Ben, safe, predictable, small Ben, and felt absolutely nothing. No anger, no lingering hurt, no temptation to fall back into old patterns. He was offering her exactly what she'd thought she wanted: normalcy, simplicity, a life without constant danger. But he'd also never made her feel revolutionary, never saw her as magnificent, never looked at her like she was worth protecting with everything he had. Min Jun had done all of that, and it still wasn't enough. Was it? "You should go, Ben," she said quietly. After he left, Anna sat alone in the temporary office, surrounded by donation boxes and insurance paperwork, and wondered if safety was worth the cost of feeling truly seen. Wondered if her mother had asked herself the same question. Wondered if there was a third option she hadn't considered yet. But mostly, she wondered if Min Jun was okay, and hated herself for caring. The temporary community center smelled wrong. Fresh paint instead of decades of children's laughter, new carpet instead of scuffed linoleum that held 1,000 stories. Anna stood in the makeshift lobby, reviewing insurance paperwork with numb efficiency, and tried not to think about how the Korean cultural books Min Jun had donated were ash now, how the computers bearing small plaques with his company's name had melted in the heat, How every corner of this new space felt sterile and empty because he'd never walked through it. Fundraising crawled forward. The neighborhood rallied, but money was tight everywhere. Corporate donors expressed concern about safety issues and liability. Anna worked 16-hour days, filling every moment with tasks so she wouldn't have space to feel. It didn't work. Everything reminded her of Min-jun, the way she still caught herself looking for him in every doorway, the phantom warmth of his hand at the small of her back, the absence so profound, it felt like a physical wound. "Girl, you look terrible," Keisha said bluntly, appearing in the office doorway with takeout. "When's the last time you ate something that wasn't coffee?" Yesterday. Maybe. Anna couldn't remember. Time had become fluid, meaningless. Keisha set the food down and perched on the desk edge. "I heard something through my cousin who works at the Korean restaurant downtown. Min-jun's gone full Ice King. The mask is back, except worse. He's expanding territory, eliminating rivals, making moves so aggressive even his own people are nervous." Anna's hands stilled on the grant application she'd been reviewing. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because Jiwoo told my cousin to tell me to tell you," Keisha paused for breath, "that Min-jun's trying to make the world safe for you, even if you're not in it. He's burning down everyone who might hurt you, Anna. He's going to war to protect someone who left him." The words lodged in her chest like shrapnel. Ben became a regular presence, showing up with supplies, offering to help with administrative work, claiming he'd changed. Anna let him help because she was drowning and needed any lifeline available. But she felt nothing for him. He talked, and she heard noise. He smiled, and she registered the mechanical movement of facial muscles. He was a ghost of who she used to be, someone who'd settled for safety over passion, for comfortable numbness over the terrifying intensity of being truly alive. "We could try again," Ben said one evening, helping her stack chairs in the activity room. "Take it slow this time. I've learned from my mistakes." "I don't love you," Anna replied, not unkindly. "I don't think I ever really did. I loved feeling safe with you, but that's not the same thing." Ben's face fell. "And you loved feeling unsafe with him." "I loved feeling seen." Anna was working with the after-school art group when it happened. The moment of clarity she'd been running from. A girl named Destiny, small for her age with quick hands and frightened eyes, refused to try the watercolor project. "What if I mess it up?" Destiny whispered. "What if it's ugly?" Anna knelt beside her, gentle. "What if it's beautiful? What if you're amazing at this and never know because you were too scared to try?" "But what if I'm not?" "Then you tried something hard and learned you're brave." Anna squeezed the girl's hand. "Fear steals joy, baby. Don't let it steal yours." Destiny picked up the paintbrush with trembling hands and made the first stroke. And Anna realized, with devastating clarity, that she wasn't following her own advice. She'd let fear steal everything. The man she loved, the life she wanted, the version of herself who felt revolutionary instead of small. She'd chosen numbness over risk, safety over truth. She'd chosen wrong. Her mother appeared that weekend with groceries and determination, taking one look at Anna's hollow face before pulling her into a fierce embrace. "I told you to leave him," her mother said quietly, "and you did. But now I'm watching you die inside, just like I did after your father went away." She pulled back, framing Anna's face with worn hands. "I was wrong, baby. I shouldn't have told you to choose safety. I should have told you to choose life, whatever form that takes. But Daddy, your daddy made mistakes, but loving him wasn't one of them. Letting fear make me bitter and small after he left. That was my mistake." Her mother's eyes glistened. "Min-jun Park might be dangerous, but so is living half a life because you're too scared to reach for what you really want." Jiwoo arrived at the center 3 days later, his usual stoic expression replaced by something urgent and dark. "Alexei's making his final move," he said without preamble. "He's going after Min-jun's core operations tonight. Shipments, warehouses, every key location simultaneously. Then warn Min-jun. He knows. He's prepared." Jiwoo stepped closer, his voice dropping. "But there's something else. Even though you're not with him, you're still a target. Because Alexei knows you're Min-jun's weakness. He'll use you to draw him out, then kill you both. Running didn't make you safe, Anna. It just made you alone." The words confirmed what she'd been trying not to admit. There was no escape from this. The danger followed her regardless of her choices. She could face it alone and miserable, or face it standing next to the man who'd made her feel revolutionary. The call from her father came that evening, his voice crackling, through the prison phone line. "Baby girl, someone put a hit out on you. The information came through Korean inmates with ties to Park's organization." Her father's urgency cut through the static. "He's protecting you even from in here, even after you left him. That man loves you, Anna. The kind of love that doesn't quit just because it's hard." After she hung up, Anna sat in the darkness of her apartment and understood. Min-jun had never stopped protecting her. He'd just done it from a distance, dismantling threats she never knew existed, standing between her and violence while giving her the space she'd asked for. And she'd spent that space dying inside, pretending safety without him was better than danger with him. The decision crystallized like ice in her chest, sharp and clear and undeniable. She couldn't change who Min-jun was or the world he inhabited, but she could choose to stand beside him in it, to be his partner rather than his liability, to face the danger together instead of cowering from life alone. Anna grabbed her jacket and keys, her heart pounding as purpose flooded back into her veins for the first time in weeks. She would go to Min-jun's headquarters, warn him about Alexei's plan, tell him she was done running from the only man who'd ever made her feel truly alive. She would choose life over safety, passion over numbness, risk over regret. The drive across Atlanta took 40 minutes through evening traffic. Min-jun's headquarters occupied a sleek building in an industrial district, all glass and steel and the kind of architectural intimidation that said, "Don't ask questions." Anna pulled into the parking lot, her resolve solid despite her shaking hands. She was reaching for her phone to call Jiwoo when the first gunshot shattered the night. Glass exploded from the building's windows. Dark figures emerged from vehicles that hadn't been there seconds before. The ambush was already underway, coordinated, violent, designed to overwhelm. And Anna had just driven into the middle of it. She could see Min-jun's people pinned behind vehicles and concrete pillars, outnumbered, caught off guard. Alexei had chosen his moment perfectly, attacking when Min-jun was emotionally compromised, when his careful control had cracked. She should run. Every survival instinct screamed at her to start the car and flee this war zone. But she'd come here to stop running, and the people trapped in that building, Jiwoo, Tai-min, others she'd met during her weeks with Min-jun, were about to die if someone didn't act. Anna's mind raced through her previous visit to this building, the tour Min-jun had given her of the legitimate import-export operations that served as cover. She remembered a service entrance on the east side, used for deliveries, less fortified but also less obvious. If she could reach it, the decision made itself. Anna abandoned the cover of her car, running low and fast toward the side of the building. Bullets sparked. Off concrete behind her, someone had spotted her movement, but she didn't stop. Couldn't stop. The service door loomed ahead, and she hit it with her full weight, praying it wasn't locked. It gave. Inside was chaos of a different kind. Smoke, flickering lights, the percussion of gunfire echoing through corridors. She found 3 of Min-jun's crew trapped in a storage room, pinned by attackers at both exits. "This way!" Anna shouted, and they stared at her like she'd materialized from another dimension. "The service corridors. I can get you out." They followed because there was no other choice. Anna led them through back passages she barely remembered, adrenaline sharpening every half-forgotten turn into certainty. They were almost at the exit when someone stepped into their path, one of Alexei's men, weapon raised. The shot rang out in the narrow corridor. Pain tore through Anna's shoulder, sharp and overwhelming. She staggered, breath knocked from her lungs, but she stayed on her feet. Tai-min moved instantly, appearing at her side, disarming the man with ruthless precision. Hands pulled her forward, the world blurred as they ran. Moments later, they spilled into an alley, the night air hitting her like a wave. Anna leaned against the wall, dizzy, her arm trembling. She was hurt, badly. "Boss!" someone shouted into a radio. "We've got civilians injured. Your girl is here. She's been hit." The ground seemed to tilt beneath her. Anna pressed her hand to her shoulder, warmth spreading beneath her fingers. Somewhere in the distance, she knew she should be afraid. Then Min-jun was there, materializing from the darkness, his face a mask of terror she'd never seen before. His hands found her face, her arms, her wounded shoulder, with a gentleness that contradicted the violence still echoing around them. You weren't supposed to be here, he said, and his voice broke on the words. Anna, you weren't. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, she replied through gritted teeth. The pain was getting sharper now, cutting through the adrenaline. Stop, Alexei. I'm fine. You're bleeding. Then bandage me and go stop him. Minjun's secure location was a penthouse across the city, the kind of place that looked innocuous but had bulletproof windows and more security than a government facility. Doctors arrived within minutes, quiet, professional, asking no questions about the gunshot wound they treated with practiced efficiency. Anna sat on a pristine white couch, now stained with her blood, shoulder bandaged and throbbing, while Jiwoo laid out the full scope of Alexei's attack. He hit 6 operations simultaneously, Jiwoo said, spreading surveillance photos across the coffee table. Warehouses, shipment routes, even our legitimate fronts. This has been planned for months. He's trying to cripple us completely. Then we respond, Minjun said, and his voice had gone cold, the dangerous kind of cold that suggested bad decisions made from a place of fury. We take the fight to him, tonight. For the first time, Anna saw the truly dangerous side of Minjun Park, the man who'd built an empire through force and fear. Violence lived in his eyes, in the set of his jaw, in the way his hands curled into fists. This was the man rumors whispered about, the one who made rivals disappear. That's what he wants, Jiwoo argued. You, emotional and reckless, he's baiting you into a war you'll win, but that'll cost everything. Then what do you suggest? Minjun's voice could have cut glass. We let him destroy what we've built? Let me come with you, Anna said. Every head in the room turned toward her. Absolutely not, Minjun replied immediately. You've been shot, Anna. You're going to a real hospital, somewhere safe. I didn't get shot so you could send me away again. She stood, ignoring the way her shoulders screamed in protest. You've been fighting this world alone for so long. You've forgotten what partnership looks like. I'm not asking you to protect me from your life anymore. I'm asking to be your equal in it. This isn't your world. It is now. She crossed to him, met his gaze without flinching. We end this together, or not at all. The silence stretched. Then Anna pulled out her phone and brought up photos she'd taken of Minjun's files during one sleepless night weeks ago, when she'd studied everything about the man she was falling for. Alexei's arrogant, she said, displaying the psychological profile. He likes to gloat. He needs people to know how clever he is. She looked up at Minjun. If we can get him talking, we can get him on record confessing to the fire, the ambush, everything. We can take him down legally. That's not how this world works, Jiwoo said flatly. Then maybe it's time we changed how this world works. Anna turned to include everyone in the room. Minjun told me he protects immigrants because the system failed him. But you're still operating in that broken system, fighting violence with violence. What if we use the system against people like Alexei instead? He has cops on his payroll, Timon pointed out. Not FBI, Anna countered, and definitely not media. If we can get evidence, real, undeniable evidence, we can destroy him without anyone dying tonight. Minjun studied her for a long moment. Then, impossibly, he smiled. You're serious. Completely. This is insane, Jiwoo muttered, but he was already pulling up Alexei's known locations. If we're doing this, we need to make it count. The warehouse belonged to Alexei's shipping operation, chosen because it was isolated and secure, the kind of place where powerful men felt invincible. Minjun sent word through channels that he was ready to negotiate terms of surrender. Alexei's ego wouldn't let him resist that invitation. They arrived with hidden cameras and audio recording devices Anna borrowed from a journalist friend who owed her favors. Minjun's people positioned themselves strategically, close enough to intervene, far enough to seem like surrender. Alexei arrived with an entourage, his smile predatory and confident. He was younger than Anna expected, mid-30s, with slicked-back hair and a suit that screamed new money trying to look like old money. Minjun Park, finally seeing reason, Alexei said in heavily accented English. I thought I'd have to kill your girlfriend first. We're here to negotiate, Minjun replied, his voice carefully neutral. No, you're here to surrender. Alexei circled them like a shark. I own this city now, your operations, your territory, all mine, and you'll work for me, or you'll disappear like the others who refused. Others? Anna interjected, playing her role. Like who? Alexei's attention snapped to her, and she saw the cruelty in his eyes, like that community center that burned. That was a message, he shrugged. Or that ambush tonight. Beautiful execution, yes? I spent months planning. Had someone on the inside feeding me information. That's quite an admission, Anna said softly. What are you going to do, call the police? Alexei laughed. I own the police. Not FBI, Minjun said quietly. And not the media. Alexei's smile faltered. He saw Jiwoo subtly holding up a phone, recording. Saw Timon near the entrance with a camera. Understood too late that he'd been played. You think you're clever? Alexei's hand moved toward his weapon. I think we're tired of fighting violence with violence, Minjun replied. This ends differently. By morning, footage of Alexei's confession had reached the FBI's Organized Crime Division and 3 major media outlets. By noon, federal agents raided his operations. By evening, Alexei was in custody, his organization collapsing under the weight of evidence he'd gift-wrapped for them. Back at the penthouse, adrenaline finally fading, Anna and Minjun stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Atlanta. Her shoulder throbbed, her hands wouldn't stop shaking, but they'd won without anyone dying, and that felt revolutionary. I broke up with you to keep you safe, Anna admitted quietly, but I've realized I don't want to be safe if it means losing you. I want to be brave enough to love you, danger and all. Minjun pulled her close, careful of her injured shoulder. I don't want you to just accept my world. I want us to build a better one. He pressed his forehead to hers. You showed me tonight that there's another way, that I don't have to become the monster I fear to protect the people I love. So what do we do now? We figure it out. Together. He kissed her softly. No more running, no more separation. We face everything side by side. Even the dangerous parts? Especially the dangerous parts. Outside, the city glittered with lights and possibility, and for the first time, Anna believed they might actually survive this love.